Hello and welcome to another episode of Media Matters here on Anfield Index. My name is Eddie Gibbs and I'm delighted to be stepping in for Dave Davis, who's taken a well-deserved holiday. On today's show, I'm thrilled to be joined by respected Liverpool FC reporter David Lynch. We've got plenty to discuss following last night's action-packed 2-2 draw at Goodison Park in the Merseyside Derby, and there's no shortage of talking points from the controversial decisions to the late drama, and we're here to break it all down for you. Just a quick reminder before we get started, if you're watching us on YouTube, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. It really helps us grow and continue to bring you top quality LFC content. And if you're listening later, don't forget to subscribe on your podcast platform of choice. This show will be available as an audio podcast as well, so you can listen to that on Spotify, iTunes, any Android apps, or wherever you get your podcasts. So without further ado, let's get stuck into tonight's derby. And David, we were just talking off air. It was a late one. It was adrenaline packed. You were at the game. I saw you doing your video on an empty Goodison, so you must have had to wait for the rabbles to disperse. Hopefully that meant the traffic also dispersed and you weren't home too late.
Yeah, it's always a late one with these evening kickoffs, and you've got to do all your post-match. And fortunately enough, there wasn't a post-match press conference from Arne Slot in this on this occasion, so that made things a little bit easier. But yeah, really, really eventful night. And I have to say, stripping all the emotion, and I'm sure there'll be some Liverpool supporters are very frustrated about the way that went, but it really was a privilege to be there last night because absolutely crazy game. 4 goals, loads of drama, loads of controversy involved, and great atmosphere as well. It really was a fantastic atmosphere, and yeah, those wild scenes at the end. I know, like I say, a lot of Liverpool supporters won't particularly have enjoyed those, but it did feel like a privilege to be there for the final Merseyside Derby at Goodison, and I think the game kind of lived up to the billing a little bit as well.
How noisy was it, David? Because I was listening to a lot of the sort of fallout from the post-match content yesterday, and I don't know that it came across on the TV quite as much as you'd have had it in the ground. I remember Rio Ferdinand in his mass hysteria excitement on the commentary was saying once the VAR decision was being made at the end, the roof is about to come off this place. You know what I mean? And he was saying that the noise was incredible. And I don't know if it was conveyed as much on the TV because I didn't think Goodison was all that. You know what I mean? I didn't think it was its usual self. I don't know why. Certainly, as Liverpool were controlling that game from sort of the Salah goal until the dramatics at the end, Liverpool seemed to be in control. And I think I saw empty seats. There must have been a lot of Everton fans already outside by then. That when that goal was going in, so I didn't think that it was as dramatic noise-wise and atmosphere-wise as it certainly. You're saying it was incredible. It didn't come across that way on the TV. Why do you think that might be?
I don't know. That is a shame that it didn't come across on the TV because I think it's fair to say after the Salah goal, it did seem like Liverpool had kind of got the foot on Everton's neck a little bit after that, and the crowd didn't really have anything to grab onto, and so it did quieten down in that maybe 15-minute period. But I thought outside of that, it was pretty raucous, and I think you could say it had a big influence on proceedings. I think it made Everton play better. It made Liverpool play worse. And I think it had an influence on the refereeing performance as well. So, it may not have come across on the TV, but it was, but it was very, very loud when you're in there. And the press box were right in the middle of that stand there. And it was, all around me, absolutely crazy. And I think you've got to give credit to Everton fans for that, because at the end of the day, we've got to acknowledge that, even with your red tinted spectacles on sometimes, that other fans are capable of creating big atmospheres that can massively influence the match. And the fact is, Evertonians are potential Liverpoolians who are basically unlucky with who the dad or mum supported at the end of the day. So they are very much as capable of creating an atmosphere as Liverpool supporters are. And I think they very much lived up to that last night. And like I say, I think it massively influenced the game. And it was, even if it didn't come across on TV, it was one of the loudest atmospheres I've been in, I think, and that's what I heard around me.
Yeah, it was one of those. It was a punch in the guts. There's no two ways about it. And I think on reflection, I think Liverpool fans have to be realistic in terms of what they've just seen. Liverpool didn't play well last night, and I don't think we can kid ourselves that they did. And it's massively frustrating for us all that Liverpool, every time they go into these derbies, they seem to play the game at Everton's level rather than at our own. And that was for me the biggest disappointment of the night, is that we went there. The guys had a rest at the weekend. Everton had played a full strength team. You were kind of hoping that Liverpool would have stamped their authority on this game and come and played our game our way and not let the atmosphere and the referee, which we will talk about. I'm not beating around the bush here, but I think Liverpool played the referee who played the occasion, and I think that that was a sort of massive conglomerate of issues that I think stopped Liverpool playing their game the way they wanted to. And I think once they get into that video analysis room, either today or tomorrow, whenever Arne Slot does that, I think they'll have to be pragmatic and accept that were mistakes made on the field with the way they looked after the football, the way that they pressed Everton. There were so many things that Liverpool just didn't do quite to their level.
Yeah, but equally, and I totally agree with you. I don't think Liverpool played well enough to merit anything more than they got. I think a draw probably was a fair result on the face of it. It's just obviously sickening the way it happens, but I think it was a fair result. But while I'm watching the game and I'm sat there, I'm kind of thinking, I don't know what Liverpool's route to playing better here is. It was so hard to see, because I think we don't appreciate sometimes that the opposition can, along with the atmosphere, can create conditions where you can't get anywhere near your best. I don't know what you do about the fact that Everton were running themselves into the ground. Their press was so aggressive. I don't know what you do about the fact that, you can try and be cute about it and play around it, but there's so much risk involved in that. And then, then you suddenly getting the ball nicked off you in really dangerous areas. And, it's so difficult to find a spare man. So then you start going long. And then the problem you've got then is that Everton are basically, is there a team as big as that in the Premier League? I looked across their entire team all the way through it. Everyone seemed to be 6'4" plus, and Liverpool are not that size. So then, that's an instant disadvantage when you're getting into duels all across the park. And that's what Everton wanted to do. But like I say, I couldn't quite see what Liverpool's way around that was. I think Liverpool, what they needed was more physicality in the team. But you look at the options they've got, they probably, that's an area that maybe Arne Slot will want to address. But, it's so easy for us to say that they got dragged down by Everton. But as I say, honestly, I just kind of felt they didn't really have a choice in that. And so, we should probably laud what they did, which is hanging in there, battling away, just keep going, keep trying to win the battles and getting themselves in a position to win the game still. That, you would have said it was a brilliant battling performance if they come away with it. But then unfortunately, there's just that sting in the tail, and he just couldn't repel that final aerial ball. And bit of misfortune in the way that kind of lands as well. So, it's a tough one. And I think Arne Slot will take some learnings from this. And I think it maybe even will go as far as having some influence on the business he does in the summer, in terms of adding some physicality to that team. Because, like I said, I don't care how good you are at football, there wasn't a way to pass your way around Everton yesterday. They were just full-blooded, pressing their hearts out. And they were, a huge team. So it was a really difficult one to solve outside of being able to then match them physically. And then that's where you get your ability to play football. And I just don't think that was on the cards for Liverpool, to be honest.
Yeah, I think Jonathan's comment on the screen echoes everything David's just said there, really. For me, there was an area where you said, how could Liverpool get to Everton? How could they play any differently? The area of that, and it seemed apparent from the start, was to try and use the width of the pitch. And of course, Liverpool's fullbacks both being booked within sort of the first 35 minutes of the game really restricted what they could do, because if they're having to track back on Everton's pressing or Everton's counters, then you're on a hide into nothing, because one of those boys is going to see a red card within that 90 minutes. And I think that was apparent with the fact that Slot substituted both of them. I think there was something in that.
Do you know what's an interesting one actually on the fullbacks as well? If I did have one criticism of Liverpool's performance, it just kind of reminded me there is that, and there will have been a tactical reason for this why Slot wanted to do it, and I guess maybe it was to kind of protect against the counter and make sure Liverpool were really well set whenever they lost the ball. But the fullbacks were insanely narrow in possession for Liverpool yesterday. So it was so noticeable in build-up, and I thought that made it quite easy for Everton when Liverpool did have spells of possession. Yeah. They just weren't being pulled left to right. They weren't being stretched in any way. And therefore, it was really struggling then to find the gaps and to be able to unleash Gravenberch or find a little space for him to turn out. So that probably is one of the criticisms I would have. And one of the things I think Liverpool could have done better is set the fullbacks a bit wider. But I do wonder whether that's just a little bit of concern on Slot's part about being hit on the counter, albeit you wouldn't have said Everton with that. They had that much pace and threat in wide areas anyway, so maybe you should have thrown caution to the wind a little bit. That's something that maybe didn't work. And as you say, it didn't help. in defending transitions once you had yellow cards to your fullbacks as well. That really caused them problems. So it's it was just very, very difficult for Liverpool all night.
Yeah, I've not seen any of the heat maps or the sort of deep stats on this game yet. I'm going to go through that with Dr. Bart's later on Stat Me Up podcast around 3 p.m. UK time. That one will be live on here, and we'll have a look at the stats. But the width was my biggest concern all through the first half, and the fact that Liverpool started going long because they were getting no joy from the fullbacks and the fullbacks then weren't able to bring Gakpo on the left or Salah on the right into the game. They were all quiet. There was no width in that game at all. It was all compact in the middle, and that perfectly played into Everton's hands. And that really, really riled me, especially when Liverpool started going long and they were looking for the Van Dijk wonder balls all through the first half to try and those balls were just going into touch. You know what I mean? It was like a rugby kick a lot of the time, and it wasn't through Van Dijk's lack of quality and making those balls or the intent to do it. It's just that it just played into Everton's hands, like you say, and allowed them their physicality that you mentioned. That's why they won so many duels, because the quality of the passes weren't there from Liverpool. They just didn't look after the football well enough. Let's talk about the goals, and then we'll get onto the referee stuff that everyone I'm sure wants us to talk about. The comments already coming in about that. So let's talk about the goals first. And there was the first goal obviously was Everton's free kick. It was not a free kick, we should say. It certainly wasn't. It was. I don't even think it was that much of a cynical dive. I think it was just that he was trying to get out of the way and he went up in the air to do it. So I don't think the boy should have been booked for diving or anything as such. But it wasn't a free kick. Clearly, clear as day wasn't. But one thing that I've kind of been debating on the socials since last night was that, yes, the referee was poor. Yes, the officiating was poor. Yes, Liverpool didn't play well. But Liverpool's defending occurred after these events for both goals. There is fault on Conor Bradley for the first goal. He didn't hold the defensive line. He just didn't, and that's why it was onside. The second goal, now people can say that it was offside. Then there was a marginal gain that allowed Everton to be onside. They can also say that Konate was fouled. There was no intent to play the ball by the defender. I can see why people would have that argument. And if the referee doesn't see that on the field, then the VAR should be intervening. It chose not to. I always think there's something a bit weird with VAR when Michael Oliver's refereeing. He never seems to go over to the screen, never seems to check things. It's like he cannot be called into question. There's definitely something there, and we'll talk about that more in a moment. But equally, why is Tarkowski allowed to run 70 yards into the back post in the 97th minute without a forward or a left back anywhere near him? So whilst we can say the referee has influenced this, I do understand that. But why is Liverpool's defending? It's Liverpool's defending, in my opinion, that's let them down on both of those Everton goals.
Yeah, I totally agree. This is the thing, is that sometimes in games, I mean, you just cannot say that, particularly around the first goal, that the free kick in that area is so decisive in the game, because these are going to happen constantly to you. They're going to be little free kicks you give away, and it's miles from goal. Okay, it's in a position where you can put it in the box, but the fact is that you just got to defend it. You can't go, oh, well, it wasn't a free kick, therefore we've got to concede a goal now. You've just got to be switched on in these situations. And as you say, Conor Bradley not holding the line, obviously Konate not alive to the fact it's going to get played there, because they're all thinking it's getting slung into the box. Really, really clever from Everton at the end of the day, because they know that Liverpool are waiting for that big one into the box and just to slip it in. So perfectly weighted pass, great finish from Beto. But Liverpool have got to be alive to that. They've got to do better, and they need to take kind of lessons from that. And around the second goal, again, as you say, just deal with the ball into the box, or don't let the cross in. Do everything you can to stop the cross. You know that there's an element of chaos if you let that ball come in. You get a bit of fortune with how it lands to Mykolenko, but just get out to him, close him down. Don't let him loop that into the box. And as you say, track a man who's coming into the box from centre half and try and close him down so he can't kind of volley it into the back of the net. And this is the thing, as much as Arne Slot will be fuming about the refereeing and certain aspects around the goals, he will be sat down with his analysis of the game, and will be sitting down with the players and saying, look, you've got to do better around these situations, because they absolutely do. And they've just been undone in really poor moments in yesterday's game, really, and that's extremely disappointing. And Liverpool have to learn from those, rather than kind of focusing on how they were unfortunate in other aspects in the game.
Yeah, we've got a comment here, so we'll speak about this one. This Paul Nunes chap has said, fair comment, but defending on the second goal, not fair. Kanate wins that header, and the ref then blows the whistle for full time, but he is fouled in midair. I think, Paul, that's fair. No one's disagreeing that there was a chance that could have been a free kick. They're not. But let's just say there was no. Let's just say for hypothetical purposes that ball was not defended well by Liverpool, and the ball ended up at the back post. Any team that's setting up tactically defensively should have cover at that back post. You have to allow for these contingencies. And Darwin Núñez was ball watching. He could have run back. He was ahead of Tarkowski at the point that cross came in. He was nearer to the goal, and yet Tarkowski is in acres of space at the back post. Tsimikas was nowhere to be seen. I don't know what Tsimikas was doing. I've not studied that, but I would have said that Darwin Núñez was responsible for tracking that run of Tarkowski, and he didn't do it. So we can say that the ref made a mistake. We can say that the VAR made a mistake, but so did Liverpool. I don't think you can say that the defending was good there, because it wasn't. And I know it's small margins and these things can happen, but Liverpool were not prepared properly to defend that in the 97th minute when you're hanging on to a lead. What do you think, David?
Yeah, and I would also say, we were sat in the press box and kind of we see the offside is obviously he's not offside once they judged it on VAR, and then they showed a replay after that on the screens where it shows kind of, and this is just before the goal gets given, it shows the Kanate moment, and in slow mo you can see there's a bit of a foul there. I mean, when you watch it in normal time, it doesn't seem that bad, certainly from particular angles. But I know for a fact, I watched it and I turned to Ian Doyle, who was behind me, and I said, they're not going to overturn it for that, because we know what the threshold is. We know the bar is high for overturns. So, from seeing this happen now over the last few years, got a really good sense of what kind of gets given, what kind of doesn't, where they'll go to for overturns. So we know that's, I have an innate sense, and I'm pretty sure everybody else who watches the game is the same. We have an innate sense of what the bar is for VAR overturns, and that was never going to reach it. Yeah, as soon as I saw it, I said, they're not overturning it for that. So
the same.
This is the thing, you've got to, where that bar is. And the fact is, you can't come away going, that was, the decisive moment in the game or whatever. You've just got to defend it better. And Liverpool just didn't do enough. And that's the kind of, that's football. You've got to take the learnings there, which is that you've got to defend balls into your box or stop them coming in those moments. So you've got to track your runners. All these elements are part of it, really. And Liverpool will just think that they have to do better.
Yeah, 100% agree, and a lot of the comments are agreeing with us now as well. It's just one of those things, and without further ado, we'll speak about the referee, because it is an important point. And I know, David, you, out of all the people I speak to regularly or listen to regularly, are very reluctant to speak about referee performances. It's just not something that you tend to do. It's and you definitely don't like to do it when Liverpool haven't won. I noticed that it's one of those things that you prefer to do when Liverpool have won and there's no sour grapes, and you can speak about it completely subjectively. The thing with this performance, and I know that people will be jumping up and down about it, and they're every right to do so, because in my opinion, Michael Oliver was abysmal. He totally lapped up everything the crowd threw at him. And the fact that Everton, I think in the stats, Everton had 20 free kicks to Liverpool's 9, whilst Liverpool had 67 or 70% ball possession. You know what I mean? It's insane. You know what I mean? It was such a bad performance. I watched one of these clips. Normally people put clips together on social media for players' performances and the things that players did good or bad during matches. And I noticed there's one going around of Michael Oliver's moments for last night. I've never seen that done for a referee before. But the fact that he managed to get about 8 minutes worth of clips just tells you how bad that refereeing performance was. And I know people will say corruption. I know people will say he needs investigated. That's all. Dave Davis has already done a video this morning saying that. But I don't think there's any element of corruption, but in terms of poor refereeing, and I think Michael Oliver used to be decent. He used to be one of the better referees, and I think he got this faux pas line that he is the best referee. And if he's the best, we've got big problems with refereeing, because that lad was absolutely abysmal last night. There is no getting around it. That was a shockingly bad refereeing performance, as bad as I've seen. And I think he knew he was bad. I genuinely do, and I think that was what triggered the red card to Arne Slot at the end, because you've seen it before where Pep has gone up after the game with Man City at Liverpool, aggressively shaking Oliver's hands, speaking, and Klopp body language was nothing like that. He may have said something. Obviously, we don't know what was said. That's one thing for sure. We don't know what was said. But I don't think I've seen, and I don't normally go into hyperbole with these sort of things. I don't think I've seen a worse refereeing performance in a Liverpool game than that one from Michael Oliver last night. It was absolutely dreadful. And surely your colleagues in the press box, no matter what their persuasion, whether they were neutral, whether they were Liverpool, Everton, let's not kid ourselves. No one apart from Liverpool fans wanted Liverpool to win that game last night. It was very much the neutrals wanted Everton to win because it was the final derby. And I'm pretty sure every Everton fan obviously wanted them to win as well. But what were your thoughts on that refereeing performance by Michael Oliver?
Yeah, I am, as you say, I'm kind of reluctant to speak about refs if I can possibly avoid it. But I just don't think there's any getting away from the fact he was very, very poor yesterday. His management of the game was shocking. You could see it from the very first minute. I thought we're in this situation again. Exactly what happened in last season's game is that every time a Liverpool player went near an Everton player, foul. And yet Everton were able to completely bully Liverpool. There were shoulders in everywhere. There was kind of pushes, and that was like, oh well, this is just part of the game. That's absolutely fine. And that foul count 20-9 is just inexplicable within the context of the game that we all saw, which was Everton being extremely physical and Liverpool just trying to match it if they could. You know, the fact that the foul count looked like that, it's just very hard to explain really. And ultimately, it all comes down to, I think, the influence of the crowd on the referee, and he wasn't able to kind of rise above that and push that to the back of his mind. I would say on kind of, obviously, there's that moment, isn't there, where Salah gets dragged back and maybe there's a second yellow there. I'm not too thingy on that one because I think Liverpool continued the attack after that one. There's also one where Bradley maybe catches Decore a little bit and was in a similar situation where Oliver could have maybe handed out a second yellow there. So I don't want to kind of focus too much on those decisions, but I think it was general management of the game. Every Everton dive was being bought thanks to the crowd getting up, and Liverpool weren't kind of afforded the same decision making. Really, it was it just felt like kind of two-tier in the decision making because of the influence the crowd was having on things. Obviously, that shows you how important fans can be in these situations, but you want your refs to be stronger and to rise above it. And I agree. I thought for a long time that Michael Oliver is the best referee in the league, but I'm starting to see more and more mistakes kind of creeping in for him and kind of worrying that maybe he's not the referee he was previously. And one thing I do want to push back on amongst this is that, I've seen a lot of corruption shouts, and I saw even Arsenal fans saying it. Look, we told you he was corrupt, but then, so who's he corrupt for then? I thought he was corrupt against Arsenal because he wanted Liverpool to win the league. If he's corrupt against them both, then that just makes absolutely no sense to me. Because I tell you what, if he wants Man City to win the league, then he's in serious trouble because that is not going to happen. So,
Newcastle, which everyone knows is a team that he supports, is like
maybe he was trying to get a few suspensions in for the League Cup final. Maybe that was it. But it's very. I don't buy into that at all. I just thought the referee had a poor game, and I thought it was such a poor game and in so many kind of big moments as well that it was hard to ignore at the end, particularly as it ends in 3-4 red cards, being handed out. I think I had to mention it in my post-match video, and I feel like it's worthy of discussion here. But I totally agree with that comment there. The players can't use it as an excuse because the performance was poor, and I still don't think Liverpool deserved better than a draw at best, really, on the basis of the performance. But equally, I think Slaughter's got some justification in being a little bit frustrated by what he saw last night. And I think that's fair enough. And I just didn't think it was a good performance from the ref.
I mean, you could pick out a lot of the little things like you've just done there. And I think the most glaring one for me was the Salah one in the 90th minute. That was the most glaring one for me. I mean, that was a free kick, probably a booking in anyone's language. And he was right in front of it. His view wasn't obscured in any sense of form. He could see that absolutely clearly. Salah was fouled. There was no doubt about that. And of course, that's in the 90th minute. It would have given Liverpool an extra bit of time to kind of compose themselves, to kind of, they might have scored from the free kick. It was on the edge of the box. You know what I mean? It wasn't it wasn't even a decision. And then of course we had the head clash between the two Everton players on, I think it was 94 minutes 45 seconds. So we were 15 seconds away at that point from the final whistle when Everton had that head clash, and they were obviously out of play then for about 2 minutes. And then the referee played on for another 2 minutes before Everton scored, when there should only have been about 15 seconds. Now, I know there seems to be this unwritten rule that the referees never like to stop the game when there's a potential attack. They seem to always do like that. Like they want the ball to go dead generally, but it was a bit galling that the time got added. And then, of course, there was the Konate one, which he missed. Now, I think, like what you say, the Konate one, he either had to give that on the field because VAR was never going to overturn that. It just wasn't. So he had to give that or it wasn't going to happen. Now, I don't know what his view was like. I just don't, you know what I mean? You don't know. But the Salah one in particular, that one really riled me. I was absolutely raging with that one.
Yeah, the Salah one was just blatant, wasn't it? And as you say, it's in a good part of the pitch. Liverpool could have just kept the ball up there and passed it around. They didn't necessarily have to have a shot. And that probably would have been the foul that saw out the game. So and just inexplicable that he doesn't see that. And I will say on the Konate thing, what's kind of interesting about that is that we don't actually know that Michael Oliver even saw that in the moment it happened. He might have been looking at another area. And so therefore we're thinking, oh, well, it's got to be a high bar to overturn. Yet he may not have even seen the push at all. So it's not kind of, he hasn't necessarily made a decision on the push. He's made no decision whatsoever. And then they're thinking, oh, well, he's seen that and therefore we can't intervene. That's one of the kind of quirks of VAR that I don't necessarily like. And you'd almost like to know that at least the referees being informed about it, say that the VAR refs are looking at that and saying, did you see the push? And then he'll go, what push? And then, okay, we're going to let you have a look at that kind of thing. That's one of the quirks of it. I'm not a massive fan of.
David, really. I don't think any VAR would tell Michael Oliver that. I don't think they would tell him to go to green either. They just back him. He seems to have a level of protection from VAR that other referees don't. Maybe Anthony Taylor as well. Maybe the two most senior referees in the league. They seem to have this extra layer of protection that because they're PGML people in these VAR studios, and they've either got relationships with these guys or they work with these guys on a match the next week or whenever. They seem to have a level of protection from. I would love it if there could be the transparency for them to say, there may have been an issue. There may have been a free kick there. Could you go and have a look at the screen? And without this expectation that as soon as he goes to the screen, it's going to go one way or another in a very binary way. It would be far better if they could go subjective. I've seen that now. And that's probably where they would have to broadcast the audio to the stadium, in fairness, to make it transparent. But it would be a case of, I've seen that now. I don't think there was enough. Let's a goal. Or, you know what? There's something in that. He didn't go for the ball. I'm going to disallow that. Over that, and the stadium would, of course, erupted, which I don't think they would have liked. But it's one of those that I think that extra layer of transparency to VAR and this sort of, whether it's protecting them or not, it certainly comes across that way.
Yeah, it's a hard one as well, because I don't know whether we want to find ourselves in a situation where it's kind of like, oh well, they're checking that goal at the end for offside, aren't they? And it's like, also we want to bring you over to the monitor to have a look at this potential push here, and then it's like, are we, because you didn't see it at all, are we dragging ourselves into a situation there where we're completely re-refereeing the game and we're trying to find little excuses to disallow goals? I don't know. It's a tough one, and I like to try and find the balance on that one, because I don't want more VAR being involved in my life. I absolutely hate it as it is, to be honest. So I want to strike a balance on that one and not go too far with it, but it just feels like one of those. Maybe we need to come away from this one thinking about that Konate push, that it's just one of those that's on the line and it's unlucky, and you just wish it'd been seen at the time, but it wasn't, and it is what it is. I don't know really. It's but I think the thing we can absolutely agree on is that I just don't think the referee had a good management of the game or was doing a good job in general, and I think that's probably the top and bottom of it, and that Slot was justified in being very frustrated with him.
Let's move on from the game itself and talk about what happened after the final whistle. Obviously, we've already touched on the Arne Slot thing. Now, we saw Decore go across to the Liverpool fans and incite them. He'd already been booked, so he was always going to get another yellow card for that, no matter what happened. And then obviously we see Curtis Jones' reaction. Now, I don't know how much you saw of that in the stadium from where you were sitting. I know it's right across from where you sit in the press box there, but I've seen mixed reactions to this. I've seen people say best scouser ever, incredible from Curtis Jones, worth the yellow card. I mean, again, he knew probably when he reacted to that there would be action, and he was on a yellow card. And I've seen other people say he lost his head. Slot lost his head. Liverpool shouldn't have lowered themselves to this level. Now Slot and his assistant have to sit in the stands against Wolves. I think it's just one game. I've seen that. I did see a comment from John earlier asking how long it would just be a one-game ban unless there was anything absolutely incredible said to Michael Oliver. That means the FA have to do more from the referee's report, but I think it's just a one-game ban. And then we see Curtis Jones obviously react on his yellow card and see a red for what he did. And obviously I say the reaction from some is that it's ridiculous. He's now leaving us short in midfield for the next game. I think it'll just be a one-game ban for him as well, because it was 2 yellows rather than a straight red. And obviously that's weakening our hand in a really essential run-in in a period where we're really stepping into the run-in in this title race now. Where do you stand on what Curtis Jones did and what Arne Slot did?
Yeah, on Curtis, I think I've got a little bit of sympathy for it. You kind of want to see a little bit of this sometimes, let's be honest. As much as it's kind of, he's lost his head a little bit and he's getting involved in something he doesn't need to, he's essentially sticking up for the away fans there. They're getting... they're getting a bit of it, aren't they, from Decore? And I just think it's nice to see a local lad kind of, he felt the pain of that as well, and he wanted to go over and kind of defend their honour a little bit. I really honestly don't kind of mind that at all, really. I think it shows great passion, and I did enjoy that after a frustrating end to the game for Liverpool, that they were showing a little bit of fight in that situation. So, it is annoying that he's getting a one-game ban, but obviously that will only be for the Wolves game as well. I'm pretty sure Liverpool can hopefully get through that one without missing him too much. And he's sticking up for the fans. I don't mind that at all. And with Slot, it's a really interesting one. I don't quite know what the red card seemingly was for. I just watched a few replays. There's no kind of violence in the handshake, is there? It's just kind of, and he must have said something.
He has to.
Yeah, it must be on what he said rather than what he did. So it'd be interesting to see what that is when the referee's report comes out. We'll hear a little bit more about that.
I actually saw something. I posted it on the Anfield Index Twitter and all the other socials if you want to go and watch it. I'm dead against these deep fakes that get made by AI technology, especially when it comes to video. But someone's made one of a Slot interview, a post-match interview this morning. You should go and watch it, everyone, because it is absolutely hilarious. If I was prepared, I would have played it for you just now on this. But it's basically Slot saying that I just told Michael Oliver that I wanted some of the money that he'd been paid, and I didn't enjoy his knee slide when he blew the final whistle and stuff like this. It was hilarious. So go and find that. As I say, it's on the Anfield Index Twitter if you want to watch it. It's just a few seconds, but someone's created one of these deep fake videos of Arne Slot's press interview at the end of the match, obviously, which David said at the start never happened.
Yeah, so I can't. It would be interesting to know what he said and whether that will lead to anything more off the back of it. But I can't see any suggestion about it, because he's served a ban already, hasn't he, for an accumulation of yellow cards, and now he's got a second ban for a straight red. But I can't see anything from what I've checked that suggests that he'll get an extended ban because it's his second. He would only get an extended if it was some form of violent conduct or something like that. So I think it will just be the one-game ban, and he'll probably think in the end it was worth it for having a go at the refs after the performance in general. And I'm pretty sure you'd like to think Liverpool can get through a home game against Wolves with Johnny Heitinger on the side, which of course it will be, because Sipka Hulshoff also got a red card for something in the tunnel as well. So they were obviously very frustrated, and they let that get the better of him. But he's only human, and I find it interesting actually that Slot was kind of, comes in and everyone's like, oh, maybe he'll be different with referees, and he's had kind of 8-9 months of PGMOL referees, and his head has absolutely exploded because he's had enough of it. So I find that pretty funny, but I think just a one-game ban for him.
Yeah, that's my understanding as well. I did have a little look at the rules, and it's not the easiest of rule books to read, but it does suggest that it will just be a one-game ban unless he said something that insulted Oliver in person, or that even question his integrity is not enough. He has to have said something almost on a personal level that's completely out of order to
he may well have, by the way.
I'm kind of dreading I'm dreading you or one of the journalists asking him what he said in his press conference tomorrow.
I think Tony might shut us down if we try that one.
So Arne, what did you say to the referee? Oh dear. You won't even talk about contracts, so I don't think you'd get much of an answer to that one. Okay, we need to move on from this game and talk about some of the stuff that's going on off the field. Obviously, we've covered the derby and the referee performance quite extensively there. So I want to move on and look at some of the stories that have been doing the rounds. Now, the first one was transfer related, and it's onto the summer, obviously, and it's the Darwin Núñez stuff has resurfaced again. I know Sam Maguire reported this a few weeks ago, and I think James Pearce shut it down very quickly. And yesterday, Fabrizio Romano obviously piped up that he thinks there's something in this Núñez to Saudi thing for the summer. Have you heard any more on this, or have you got any understanding of this that can shed any light for the viewers on it?
Yeah, so very much kind of chime along with what Sam had written, really, in terms of that there was definite strong interest in January, and you know, it wasn't something Liverpool were ever going to countenance at that point in the season, because you know, it would have been struggled to get someone new in, and even if they could have done that and got a replacement in, you know, you've still got that transition that's happening there, and you don't know that the new guy's going to hit the ground running. He's got to learn the system. He's got to learn and meet all his teammates. You know, and obviously availability in January is not always the best in terms of getting exactly who you want. So for Liverpool, it was a bit of a no-brainer, really, to kind of push that interest aside and try and just keep this squad together till the end of the season. But I think it gives you an obvious indicator of where things are going for Darwin Núñez. I mean, I've been banging the drum for a while that I expect him to leave in the summer. And I think now we're getting an obvious kind of indication of what his destination will be. Because it's my understanding the player was quite keen as well, not necessarily to get out of Liverpool right now, but that at some point he would be happy to make that move. So I think this is all just kind of lining up now for a summer departure to Saudi Arabia. And you know, obviously the hope is that he does so with a few winners' medals. I think he's been contributing pretty well at times so far this season, particularly in the more recently as well. So he could have a big say in helping Liverpool win more medals. And if he does that, then everyone will obviously kind of wish him the best. And I think, you know, it's been an experiment that's not kind of worked out perfectly. But as I say, if he plays a role in winning some trophies this season, then I think everybody wins from it there. And obviously Liverpool get a bit of their money back as well, selling to Saudi, and they can look for someone who's maybe a bit of a better fit for them.
And let's not be around the bush. Saudi is the best chance of Liverpool being able to do that, because otherwise I think they'd have been looking at a big loss on Darwin Núñez, because you have to remember, I think going back, Liverpool's route to sell in the always a bigger fifth type area was always the Spanish clubs, Real Madrid and Barcelona. Now Barcelona are fallen into an era where they're no longer able to do that. You know what I mean? So Liverpool haven't got this out for players, whether they've been successful or not. The route out of Liverpool was always that, you know what I mean? It was always, that's where Liverpool recoup most of their funds, whereas that's gone now. So Saudi is almost a bit of a golden goose, as we saw with Fabinho, whose legs had gone, and Henderson, who'd been struggling for almost 2 years by the time Liverpool come to sell him. That was the route. And Liverpool, not just transfer fees, getting the money off the books, that the wages money off the books and those contracts off the books, that allowed Liverpool to go and rebuild that midfield. So Saudi actually plays a massive part and that midfield rebuild that happened last summer with Gravenberch, with McAllister and Szoboszlai and Endo all coming in one summer, that was unheard of for Liverpool to have. Liverpool were given a golden goose by the Saudis to go and rebuild that midfield, and perhaps something similar may happen with the attack this year. You know what I mean? It's not that Liverpool need to completely reinvent their attack; they don't, but Núñez will be on a hefty contract, and obviously a hefty fee was paid for him. And if Arne Slot's not going to use him as his frontline striker, it doesn't really make sense to just leave him as a squad piece. That you'd prefer your squad piece to be a younger striker that you're bringing through and developing, rather than an elite level player that's a big international star and was paid probably the club's record ever signing. So it does give the Saudi thing, I think, does give Liverpool an out that they may not have otherwise.
You're absolutely spot on with that, because it let them off the hook, really, in a way that was quite underrated, in that they made bad decisions around Fabinho and Henderson in terms of the long-term contracts that they gave them, which were obviously reward for what they'd done in the past, but then had locked themselves into big money to players who were not delivering on the pitch, and both the legs went kind of simultaneously. And you know, the only way that Liverpool could have got out of that was this crazy Saudi money coming in. I mean, the fact that they got fees for both and were able to get them off the books was absolutely unbelievable, really. And I think similar thing is going to happen again with Núñez. Like I say, he's contributing well at the moment, but it's clear to everyone he's not kind of doing exactly what Liverpool hoped, and he's not hitting the level they hoped for. but he's on big money. They paid a lot of money for him, and so you kind of thought they were going to be locked in for a while into this kind of bad decision that they'd made, really a rare bad decision in the market. Particularly as, think of the European clubs, AC Milan are interested, but they know on their side they're probably not going to be able to fund a deal. So Liverpool probably would have had to, loan him out and be stuck in that scenario for a while to kind of just eventually get him off the books. But thankfully, this kind of Saudi interest is there now, and that will help Liverpool because it will free up that place in the squad. It'll free up that wage and help them out to maybe find a centre forward who's a little bit of a better fit for what they want at the moment. And I agree with Bob there, by the way. He is a good squad player, and I think we're seeing it in the last couple of months, but he wants more. He wants to play more frequently. He doesn't want to be on the bench as much as he is. And also Liverpool, it's a big investment that for a squad player. He's on big wages and he costs an awful lot to just be sat on the bench most weeks. Liverpool can use those funds and that money much better. And that would be the aim in kind of getting Núñez out the door.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think that the other factor is we see match to match that Slot. We had this conversation on Monday. You thought Darwin Núñez would start last night and you gave good reasons as to why. And I thought Luis Diaz would start last night and he did, because that, no matter what we say, is Slot's preference. It is.
Yeah.
And he'll take all the mitigating factors, the ones you mentioned the other day, and he'll still go with Luis Diaz up front, who's not a striker. And I know if Diogo Jota was fully fit, he may be the number 9, but Darwin Núñez is not. He's effectively third choice as Liverpool's number 9 just now. And that doesn't sit well. Now, you mentioned there that that obviously it would free up the funds to allow Liverpool to do something else. And that's something else that, again, comes from rumours and gossip that we're kind of hearing out there, is the elite striker in the Premier League at the moment, Alexander Isak at Newcastle. He's been heavily linked with Arsenal in the past. Everyone knows Arsenal need number 9. And we know Newcastle would demand the king's ransom for this fella at the same time. We're about to see him up close and personal twice within the space of a few weeks. Liverpool are going to be playing Newcastle at Anfield in a couple of weeks. And then we've got this Carabao Cup final in March as well. So we're going to get to see him up front and see what we think of him against Liverpool again. Obviously, he's already scored a superb goal against Liverpool this season. Brilliant player. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And he's one that Liverpool allegedly looked at when he made the move to Newcastle. Now, David, the only mitigation I've kind of got for this is Newcastle kind of have to finish outside the top 4 for this to even become something that's going to happen. And I do think Isak would look to move if they don't. And I think he'd totally be within his rights to. I know he's got a contract, and I believe there's rumours of a release clause within that contract. And I would imagine there'll be some sort of Champions League release clause of some sort as well, because he's a player that needs to be playing in the Champions League, absolutely. But is he the sort of player that if Liverpool were able to find the funds to do a deal like that in the summer, that you would see that Slot would make him his first choice number 9? And could that work for Liverpool? And do you think there's anything in the deal, or do you think it's just social media gossip?
No, I think Liverpool will definitely like him an awful lot. I mean, he's absolutely world class, isn't he? And he's 25 years of age, so he's just about to come into his peak years now. He's already experienced in the Premier League, and he's just a brilliant footballer who'd fit into any top side. So I've no doubt Liverpool like him. One thing I'm kind of skeptical on is there would have to be a release clause of some sort, because otherwise he's got 3 years of contract left. Newcastle well within the rights to say, well, we're going to demand 120, 130, 140 million. And I don't think you could bat an eyelid at that, because they're a Premier League club with an awful lot of money behind them, and they've got probably the best centre forward in the league there. Why wouldn't they demand that sort of money? So there'd have to be some sort of release clause, I think, for Liverpool to be able to countenance this. And of course, also, if there is a release clause that relates to Newcastle not finishing within the Champions League, they'd have to finish 6th or below, because it's very, very likely that the Premier League are going to get 5 spots. So there's just a lot there that makes me sceptical. The outcome I most expect really from this summer is that Isak stays at Newcastle, to be honest. I think it's going to be very, very difficult outside of that clause that we don't know is a fact, and I haven't sort of seen anything particularly on that. I just think they've got a lot of the cards at the moment, and I think they probably will finish top 5 because they're a very good team as well. I really struggle to see anybody getting him out of there. Obviously, the season after that, it starts to become a conversation, because when he gets to 2 years, then Newcastle are in a weaker position contractually. But it's very, very kind of hard to see anyone getting him out this summer.
Yeah, let's move on from that and let's talk about the title race before we finish off by talking a lot about the Wolves game on Sunday. Now, as we again spoke about on Monday, you've been effusive in your view from well back, actually. I think as far back as October, November, that Arsenal are going to run out of road and they're not going to be able to accumulate the points that they need. We know they haven't won more than 3 Premier League games in a row this season. And last night's game is gone now. Liverpool are 7 points clear. Let's not forget they did earn a point last night. It's easy to forget that they didn't have a point. And that does change the dynamic because that means it's a minimum of 3 games that Liverpool now have to slip up in. And I heard Gags mention it on his show last night post-match that effectively could be construed as being 8 points because Liverpool's goal difference is far superior to Arsenal's as well. So we don't need to get our knickers in a twist about this draw because this draw isn't really impacting the titles. Liverpool have given themselves a bit of margin for error in terms of wins by the lead that they've established here. We know that draws are going to happen. We know Liverpool aren't going to win every game. It just depends whether the mental impact of what happened late last night is going to affect Liverpool. I've seen again some people say, that situation, the biggest derby, thinking you've got the 9 points lead and then getting it taken away from you in the last minute, and then the chaos of getting the manager sent off and the player sent off at the end, that's going to have a mental scar on Liverpool going into Wolves on Sunday and the 2 big games, obviously, that follow on the road the next week. And I've seen other people say, Liverpool have got strong mentality, Slot will get them together this morning, Virgil will pipe up, and this will be fine. They'll use this as a catalyst to drive them into this run-in, knowing that they don't have any games like that left away. And I think they play 7 of their last 11 at Anfield as well, which is massive for Liverpool. So do you feel that draw last night has changed the title dynamic in any sense of form? And let's also keep in mind, Arsenal have had another big injury. I know the media have overblown, the mainstream media, I should say, have overblown Arsenal's injury situation at times this season and kind of made a massive thing out of the odd injury here or there. But this is a big injury. This is Kai Havertz, and he's not a striker, but he plays as a striker. He plays as Arsenal's most forward player. They've already lost Jesus. Saka's not back yet. They've lost Martinelli. Their front line has been absolutely decimated, and Mikel Arteta sold off all the backups like Nketiah and guys like that already to try and fund the defensive midfielder that apparently they needed again this summer. So that last summer, I should say. So they've made some strange decisions around their forward line, and this could be the same sort of thing that Liverpool experienced last season when we had to play the kids in the cup final and went through. But our league campaign, our title charge, fell off the rails very soon after that because of the amount of injuries we have. Could the same thing happen to Arsenal? I know some Arsenal fans, as they do straight away last night, Liverpool have dropped the point. This shows that they're starting to crack. Are Arsenal really still in this title race, or are Liverpool still very much in control of it? Because I certainly think it's the latter.
Yeah, they're just massively in control of it. And I know but this is the problem, is people can't get their heads around. I still think it's going to be lower than 90 kind of points to win the league. And so when that happens, you're going to get more disappointing results. You're going to get, this isn't peak Liverpool of 1920. It isn't that level, unfortunately, but it's definitely a level that is much better than everybody else in this division. And all the underlying numbers show it. They've got a 7-point lead. And as you say, that's 3 games. So they've got say they lose the next 3 games and also win their next 3 games. They've still only got then that 2-point advantage, and they've got to then be better than Liverpool over the remaining games. And so it's not even about Liverpool. And you could say, you could be hugely negative and say, oh, well, Liverpool bottled it last night in some way and threw it away. And, you could, and it's going to have a huge impact on the mentality and they're going to be terrible from now on. But they have to, it's not, the title races aren't played in a vacuum. It's not, Liverpool don't just have to be terrible. Arsenal have to be really, really good to overhaul them. And I don't know how you can look at Arsenal, who we already thought had problems with goal scoring and in attack in general. And now over the next couple of months without the entire, the top 3 scorers so far this season in Havertz, Saka and Gabriel Martinelli all out for a while. They've no Jesus either as a rotational option. How they are just going to go on this winning run, there's just not a chance in hell. So then beyond that, okay, a City going to turn around a 16-point deficit or whatever it is. A Nottingham Forest going to go and win the league. It isn't going to happen. And I think Liverpool's league could shrink from this point at some point, but they will extend it again. It's just going to happen. Liverpool, I've just, very been reluctant to kind of say this out loud, but I'm just convinced they're going to win the league because I don't see who else wins it. Liverpool have been the best team by far so far this season. And yeah, there's been a couple of kind of disappointing results in there, but you've got to take, I think as well, yesterday's game for what it is. Everton away for Liverpool is a specifically, particularly difficult fixture, and they won't face another game like that this season. So, it's absolutely. I just don't think it's anything to panic about. And a 7-point lead, by the way, if anyone had offered you a 7-point lead with 14 games remaining, you would have been like, yeah, this is unbelievable. So, yeah, I don't buy into the idea there's any point panicking.
Yeah, and I think the comments coming in are kind of disagreeing with both. There seems to be a lot of hysteria about Arsenal no matter what we say here. People aren't even concerned. They're more concerned not about Arsenal winning every game. They just think we're going to blow it in terms of we'll lose all our games all of a sudden.
So Liverpool, who have only lost one game this season, are going to lose 5 or 6, because that's what we're talking about. Outside of Arsenal being perfect. So, even if Arsenal were perfect, Liverpool will lose 3 games to let them in. And that's with Arsenal being perfect with this forward line. If Arsenal are imperfect in any way, you're talking 5, 6, 7 games that Liverpool can drop points in. There's only 14 left. So, for me, I think 85 points is going to win it, which for Liverpool means that they only have to go at 2 points a game from here, which is Arsenal's form so far this season, by the way. So they don't even have to be good to win it from here, Liverpool. So I can't get my head around this kind of chat, really. I don't think it's rooted in reality. And I get there's some mental scarring that's happened from last season and what went wrong there. But that was all down to injuries for me. It's not this weak mentality. I think some of the weak mentality for me comes from some of the fan base getting a little bit panicky and not knowing what they're actually seeing here, really. I can't. I really struggle to kind of get my head around that. And these the valid point there. They could easily drop 8, but then you think that Arsenal are going to go to Nottingham Forest and be perfect. You think they're going to win at Anfield. Fair play to them if they do that. But it's not happening. It isn't happening.
Yeah, very strange. But everyone's entitled to their opinion, and that's what it's all about. It's all about opinions. We do get that. I notice Red and White Yanks asking me here why Brett Young's comments have been taken down as a censorship issue, and Brett himself has followed up, I believe, by saying he's not sure either. I'm showing all the comments. I'm obviously taking them down as other comments come in, but I think I've shown all of the comments, so I'm not entirely sure if YouTube's doing anything, but I'm certainly not. I'm putting them on the screen, so I'm not entirely sure what that point's all about. Okay, we need to move on, and we've talked about the title race there, and now we need to talk about the next part of that title race, which is obviously Liverpool versus Wolves on Sunday. I'm not going to dwell too much on the Aston Villa and Man City games, because Dave Davis will be back on Monday and speaking to David about those in the build-up to those games. And I will say one thing on them is that David just mentioned there that we've got Everton out the way, and that's done. There won't be another game like that. Of course, the difference between Aston Villa and Man City is they're not going to play that way. They're going to come and try and play football because they want to win by playing football. That's the way they game. They're not setting out to have a draw. They're still going. Both those sides are still going to want to win. I think Aston Villa have possibly got more chance of playing a bit like Everton, but it will just be a tactical adjustment. It's not going to be the same blood and thunder nonsense that Everton were playing last night with all the long balls and trying to influence the referee from the fans. And I know Villa Park is now as well. It's not going to be an easy game by any stretch, but it's a very different type of game, and it's a sort of game Liverpool thrive on. More chance for counters, more chance to use the width. Liverpool will likely hope they can win the midfield battle in both of those games, and I'd be stunned if they don't win the midfield battle against Man City after watching them play against Real Madrid the other night. So I think there's a lot to be excited about for those games, and I wouldn't judge what happened last night on that. But let's talk about the Liverpool-Wolves game on Sunday, David, because that's the next one that's on our thing, and we do have to take every game one at a time. What are your thoughts on this game? Is it going to be Trent back in for Connor Bradley, do you think? And Diaz false 9 experiment? I mean, we spoke about that the other day, and I didn't think he would change it. You did. He didn't. What does he do on Sunday? Is there going to be many changes here? I don't think we've got any new injuries by the look of it. It looks like there's obviously going to be this Curtis Jones suspension, but he was on the bench anyway. But I think now we'd snap your hand off for a routine Liverpool 2 Wolverhampton Wanderers now.
Yeah, it's very important if you drop points in the Everton game, particularly in the way he did, to just bounce back immediately and kind of get 3 points on the board in this one. I mean, it's the biggest kind of gimme out of all of them, out of all the games they've got in this run, isn't it? So they have to make the most of it and get the points on the board. And Wolves, I know they, maybe a little bit of a bounce since the manager changed, but they're still really, really struggling for results and still giving up a lot of opportunities to the opposition. So for Liverpool, they've got to think that they can overcome them and get a decent win on the board, and that will just restore the confidence and get them kind of back on track. So that's that's the aim. I mean, in terms of team selection, it's a really interesting one in terms of how he goes about that. You know, the Diaz false nine thing, I think it's just very much he's got to pick it in the right games, and I don't think that was the right one yesterday, where you know you were never going to get Tarkowski or Branthwaite following Diaz out. They're just going to sit in a low block, so it just didn't work, and he was getting bullied by them all the way through the game. So that was a bit of an issue. So I guess the choice is whether he thinks that Wolves are going to come out, and I can't see it. So maybe you're better with someone like Nunes, who will pin them back and create space in the 10 area for you. Be interesting to see what he does there. But I think either way, and no matter what team he selects, you've got to hope that Liverpool can come back into winning ways, because it's really, really important to get the Everton result out of the system. And, 3 points on the board in that one, then it'll be like, right, that sets us up to go into a couple more really difficult games.
Yeah, and what you expecting score wise from that one, if we were to give you a chance to predict it?
I'd like to think that Liverpool can put a few goals on Wolves, to be honest. I mean, defensively, they haven't been fantastic this season. So, Liverpool at home are really, really dangerous. So if you could get a 3-0, if you could wrap up a 3-0 early so I don't have to do a total rewrite like last night, that would be, from a journalistic point of view, very, very handy as well.
And I see there that there's some comments coming in from an agent, Ancelotti. So I said a moment ago I hadn't censored Brett, and I didn't. I don't know if YouTube have or anyone else has, but I showed all Brett's comments, so I'm not sure why they've gone. But Agent Ancelotti has been dispatched from the chat because he was in spouting nonsense just to rile up.
He's still drunk from last night, I think.
And I agree with the comment on the screen now from Copite Callum wholeheartedly. I hope they enjoy their Tool trophy, and I'm sure the DVDs will be getting made as we speak, and you'll be able to buy them in all good record and VHS stores very soon. There's no doubt about that. So I think that's us, David. I think we've been through everything. I think we've covered all the stuff now until Dave Davis returns next Monday, and you can go back to normal service. It's a massive thank you to David for joining me and sharing his insights. And as always, it's good to thank you, the viewers and the listeners who are listening on audio for tuning in, because without you, we wouldn't do this. And don't forget, if you enjoyed this show, be sure to hit that like button. I mean, there's 700 odd of you watching live just now, and there's only a handful of likes. So please do take the chance to like that. It really does make a difference to YouTube's algorithm and helps this show get to more eyeballs. So please do that. And if you wish to listen to more of our content, there's over 100 free audio podcasts every week on Anfield Index. It's not just the video, it's the audio as well. And you can get them whenever you want on any podcast platform, Spotify, iTunes. Just go to AnfieldIndex.com/podcast. And if you prefer your podcast without adverts and in full, because some of the free shows are cut, they're not offered in full, then please check out AnfieldIndexPro.com, where you can sign up from only £3.33 per month. I mean, there's not many services like that. And I was saying actually to Greg and Gags during the week there, we've never increased those prices since 2017. What can you buy that you could now in 2017 for the same price? I don't think there's much. We've been through COVID, we've been through a global pandemic, we've been through Brexit, we've been through absolutely everything, and you can still get Anfield Index Pro for £3.33 per month. But I'm sure you sense from my comments that might not be the case for much longer. So if you want it at that price, now's your time. £3.33 per month for over 100 podcasts without adverts and in full. So please do try and take that opportunity. And there's other benefits like VIP communities and stuff like that come as part of that as well. So the only thing that remains for me to do is look forward to the Wolves game, David, and we'll hope to hear from you on Monday back in the normal situation with Dave Davis. So thanks for joining me for these couple of shows this week.
No, thank you very much. And it's nice to know that Dave's going to come back, because maybe Liverpool will actually win then as well, because we all know that you are cursed.
For the audio viewers, you missed a reaction to that, I shall say. And David knew exactly what he was coming when he said that. Thanks, everyone. And until next time, up the Reds.